Hi everyone. Welcome to the Ravit Show. Today's conversation is for anyone building AI systems that actually have to work in production, not just in demos. So I'm excited to have Antonio, co-founder and CEO of BEM, join me today on the Ravit Show. Before we, obviously get into all the things around AI systems, around structured data, unstructured data, I'm just going to give a quick intro around BEM as well. BEM is an AI infrastructure platform built for real enterprise operations. It helps engineering teams that take messy, unstructured data like PDFs, emails, images, spreadsheets, and audio and turn it into reliable, validated, production ready data. So I'm excited to chat with Antonio around many things today and how are obviously enterprise leaders making the most of BEM and obviously making that unstructured data into structured data and making the life easier. But before we get into all of this, first of all, let's welcome Antonio. Antonio, welcome to the Ravit Show. Such a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you so much, Ravit. It's so great to be here.
Awesome. Antonio, just for our audience, would you like to quickly give you intro and also tell us a little bit about BEM and how was this founded? Why does it exist?
Totally. So I'm Antonio, as you mentioned. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called BEM, BEM.ai. We work with teams that need to transform millions of messy data points, everything from spreadsheets to PDFs, video, into structured outputs. And so what we essentially do for companies, we have insurance companies automating claims processing with BEM, or logistics and supply chain companies automating everything from invoicing to accounts payable or bills of lading. Any process where you have a human being manually reading through a document and trying to make sense of it, that's essentially what we do. And so BEM process a few million of these every single day, everything from 200-page contracts to 2-page invoices to audio notes on WhatsApp. We do semantic data extraction. We validate it with your own data because you have a beautiful database of data that is already validated. And then we make decisions on it if you need to, and then send it back to your system.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Definitely a huge problem that you're solving in this space. So my next question is, who's actually using BEM in production today? Tell us a little more about that. Walk us through what actually happens when a customer sends their first batch of messy data into BEM. How does it all work? Kind of curious to know a little bit about the architecture, but also who's actually using it.
So we have everything from seed stage teams and smaller teams and solopreneurs all the way to Fortune 50 companies. And the platform they use are the same. In terms of volume, we have customers sending us 20 documents a month, and we have customers sending us 20 million. So there's a large spectrum.
Wow, massive.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gap. Ultimately, the reason why we have all this gap is because every single feedback, every single opinion matters at our stage, and so we want everyone's feedback. What happens under the hood is actually pretty straightforward. From the customer perspective, from the user perspective, they make a call to one of our functions or workflows. And so a function basically is taking a video of a camera feed, for example, and I want to know what the license plate is the car going in and out of the lot, and what's the color, and who is the vendor in this invoice, or who is. So it's not document level operations, it's actually semantic operations. And that's the only thing we expose to. So the only thing that a customer needs to do is just call an API and call it once. What we do under the hood, which is, I think it's a great question, is we have 5 to 6 different layers of AI and deterministic infrastructure that, let's say you send us a PDF. The first thing we do is use a layer of vision models. Some of them are better for tables. Some of them are better for charts or text, to extract the information hierarchy of the document. Then we have a few layers of large language models that take the raw text, what you would consider traditional OCR, take that raw text and actually shape it to be exactly the data format and schema and things you want. And then we have a few layers of persistence and sort of subscription, so that you can do this a few million times a day in a reliable way. So one important distinction is all of our customers run BEM in production. So this is not a back office sort of thing where you have I have
Right.
5 bytes of data from the 80s that I need to. Surely you can use BEM for that. Where we really shine is in operations where this is happening millions of times a day live.
True.
Um, and then we send it back to you, validated, extracted, matched to your database, like relationally. And so it's kind of fun to see. We give full exposure and transparency as to what is actually happening on every step, but ultimately the user only needs to do one call.
Yeah, I love it how easy y'all are making it for obviously the teams when it's because most of the time what I feel is like when I talk to enterprise leaders, they tell us that the challenge for us is okay, we have millions of documents, like
Yeah,
you said, but if we kind of do it, manually, it's going to take us ages again, and it's the
yeah,
same process. Then, how does it kind of solve our problem where we are using one production system, but if the API call kind of does the job, I think it just becomes a game changer. In terms of the customers as well, do you have any use case that you would like to share? And you don't need to name, but I'm kind of curious to know about different industries because what I feel is, Antonio, when we think about
yeah.
industries like healthcare, industries like finance, these are very regulated industries,
Oh yeah,
and obviously the data that goes into production when it's unstructured to structured, how are you kind of managing the governance, how are you managing the data quality as well?
for sure.
Kind of curious to know a little bit about that as well.
So interestingly, so we work. One of our customers is Fleetio. This is publicly available. I'm not disclosing anything
Nice.
confidential. They're a unicorn company that builds this awesome fleet management system for large fleets, and
Nice.
they use BEM under the hood to save time for their users. So they've embedded BEM in their product so that people managing fleets like large carriers and whatnot don't have to input maintenance reports, or they don't have to input invoices into the platform. And I think the interesting thing about this case study is that when they started using BEM, what we told them is, look, we don't guarantee perfect accuracy, and if any vendor does, please ignore it.
Don't
what
believe
we
them.
what we do guarantee is you'll start using it. We give you a benchmark that is just for you, because we
Hmm.
don't even read industry benchmarks because every company is different. And then as your users patch and correct drafts, we take those in and we fine
Hmm.
tune the model automatically just for you. So we have a few of these use cases, both in supply chain and fleet management, but
Nice.
also on the larger side. We can't name names, but we have a couple of public companies today using us to automate everything from finance function to accounts payable. Like they receive
Wow.
millions of invoices. Um,
Invoices.
we have another a public company that uses us for tax automation because they receive a lot of tax documents from the government and forms, and so there's every use case, and you can see this commonality where like they're just getting a lot of this unstructured data. um,
Right.
they need an end-to-end solution. And then I think you were asking earlier about confidence. So we're
Confidence. Right.
very, every time you run BEM, we basically tell you how sure we are of what we just did. And so
Oh,
we,
nice.
yeah, and I think our users have asked for transparency forever. One of the first questions they would ask us when we started BEM is, can I know your confidence score? Can I know how sure are you guys of this? So that is not easy to build. And essentially what we did is we do two things. We use the log probabilities of the models under the hood. And the second thing we do
Nice.
is we have a larger model that tattletales on us. And we've done it in a way that like we actually want to be we don't want customers to be disappointed. So we want to be very, very upfront about how accurate it is. And so that's kind of how we manage confidence. And sort of there's a pretty big gap all the way from like small companies to like large companies that are like sending us millions of these every day.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you all have, obviously kind of also what you mentioned about, the confidence score, which is very important. And very rarely companies do that because obviously everyone wants to be either, even if they are 70% sure, they wouldn't want to show that 30% they're
Yeah,
unsure about. So that 30% kind of matters a lot if you're kind of, being honest to the customers. But
yeah,
what happens, it also gives a lot of confidence to the user as well. And I feel like if you all are doing that at the start itself, it just goes to places. My next question is just around like a follow-up question to this one. When we talk about structured pipelines, they fail loudly, right? Unstructured pipelines will silently fail. How do you
Yeah.
detect subtle failures before they hit production in this case? How does that happen?
So, in a couple of ways. One is as you run documents and video and emails through your workflows in BEM, we will run every function that you use in BEM. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
prompts. What we have is functions. These functions have a bunch of AI under the hood. Um,
Nice.
it's an event-driven system. So we actually tell you if there has been an error before your users can notice it. We also have a few layers
Wow.
of reliability under the hood where, let's say, I mean, models fail all the time. So we've basically had to account for things like retries and exponential backoffs that we don't expose to you in any way. Ultimately, the way that I think works best for our customers is every time you run one of these like workflows in BIM, we also do a statistical analysis of the performance of the pipeline, the data pipeline. The
Nice.
more you
Nice.
use it, the more data we have to make really good guesses on where you are from an accuracy standpoint, and we give
Mm-hmm.
you certain scores. And the cool thing about it is, let's say you are an insurance company. So we have insurance companies automating claims.
Yep.
That 70% you mentioned earlier would be completely unacceptable for an insurance company,
Insurance
especially,
company.
right? Because at the end of the day, if you're like sending us a few hundred, then like, okay, 30% is not that bad. But if you're sending us a million of these documents every week, 30% is millions of dollars in liability. And so the way we think about this problem is you can set thresholds, and essentially the way it works is if we are less than 95% sure that something is right, then you can configure things so that it gets redirected to a human review queue. And the cool thing is that that human, if they have corrections to make, those corrections feed and train your own model within BEM. And so we don't train across customers. That's very much a no-no. Every customer ends up with a function level sort of training data set. Not all customers in BEM need that. Ultimately,
Mm.
a lot of them prefer to just expose it to the user, embed the corrections and training API in their product, and then feed that. And then we can track how much manual data entry they're saving, right? So with Fleetio, they started at 50%, then 70, then 90. I think right now they're like at 95% manual data entry removed, and we can actually give
Wow.
them the delta across time. And so we think
Nice.
about confidence and accuracy as a process that you don't do cold start, right? Like you don't need a team of data labelers working overnight for like a month. You
Right.
basically do in production data labeling, and I think it works really well. It also sets the expectation that AI isn't perfect, and we don't want to disappoint
Mhm.
anyone, you know.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that, and it's super insightful. My curious question around all this, when you kind of, obviously talk about productions and, obviously making sure that even when things needs to be detected, it's detected beforehand. There's another big picture that I always want to see is about the data quality, and that question is obviously asked a lot of times when we're kind of working around AI, the agentic systems. Traditionally, the ETL assumes, say, determinism, but
Yeah.
unstructured pipelines use probabilistic models, right? So
Yeah.
how should teams think about data quality in that world is what I'm kind of curious about. What do you think about it, Antonio?
Yeah. So when we think about data quality, I think what our customers care about is two things. One is the data shaped the way they need it? Does it follow
Mm-hmm.
the schema that they have internally? And two, is it actually correct? Like, is it an accurate representation of the original data point? Um, for the first one, so as I mentioned, we don't have prompts. What we have is configuration. Part of that configuration for every function is a schema.
Yep.
We guarantee type safety from a schema perspective. So if you want that data extraction to follow an enum or a set of values or to match over existing IDs in your database, we will guarantee that the shape is always perfect. Right? That is
Perfect. Right.
one guarantee we can guarantee always 100% is the shape of the data. Now,
Nice.
right? That's the bare, that's the table stakes for us. Now, the next
Right.
thing is accuracy, which is, I think it's really important. I would say that the thing for us is we don't do OCR, right? Like we think OCR as a concept will slowly get replaced with actual semantic data extraction. And so when we
Exactly.
talk to customers, if you send us a 200-page document, we don't take and send you, the 200 pages worth of text and blobs. What we will do is send
Right.
you a JSON or a CSV with exactly the fields you want, because ultimately your operator or your team does not need the entirety of the document. You
So
already
true.
have that, right? You can
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
Command F and just like search for the little
Ask.
word that you're looking for. What your
Yeah.
team needs is like, what are the economics of this contract and how do I enforce it, for example?
Yep.
And so I think you have a really good point, which is there's been this shift. When we started BEM, everyone thought we were an ETL. And I think it's very interesting because back then document extraction wasn't really a thing yet. Um, I think the way that I would call it is the shift happening from a document extraction perspective is ETLs went very quickly. I mean, we went into more like the DBTs of the world. The
Right.
next phase for document extraction or semantic data extraction is to go from document level operations, which there's like a million platforms out there that do this, to semantic operations. So what we see is
True.
a lot of platforms out there are like, oh, the little APIs we give you extract a table or extract a chart or extract text. The problem with that is that would never work for our customers because every document looks completely different. And there's this
True.
level of uncertainty where like, I don't know if there's a chart or not. Like, what do I do here? And so we don't expose any of that to our customers. Like our customers can't say, please do this bounding box and like extract it, because like for starters we see the data before they do, so they wouldn't
So
never
true.
able, right? And so I think that's what's going to happen, and I think that's the beauty of having large language models and vision models is not OCR. The beauty of this is semantic data extraction, and I
Semantic.
think that's the future.
Yeah, I love it. In my past life, I think I've worked around the semantic, obviously modules in also semantic layers. So I'm kind of aware about it. And this
Yeah.
is, obviously a game changer for sure.
Oh
I
yeah.
Obviously, I wanted to also give you a situation, Antonio. Say if I'm building an unstructured data pipeline today, what
Yeah.
should I own and what should I delegate to infrastructure? What are your thoughts?
I think you should own your IP, and your
Mm-hmm.
IP is your business know-how. It's the workflows, it is the importance of the documents, it's what you do with them. I don't
Yep.
think anyone today should own the like underneath of the document data extraction. And this is a mistake that I see mostly from smaller companies who think about it in terms of, because to be honest with you, our biggest competitor is building this yourself, and you can certainly build something like them internally. Like all that's the funny part is like all of our customers are really technically like technical teams, highly skilled senior machine
Totally.
learning engineers. I think it's more like, why should they, right? And the way I think about it is, we're not in the business of owning their business logic. Their business logic is the closest there is to the traditional business mode, which is,
True.
why does this data matter? How does it affect the market? And how do I commercialize it? We're not in that business. We're in the business of making sure the data is clean. And so um, we have our best customers, to be honest with you, they've built this themselves before. Like
Mm.
when I go through sales calls, to be completely transparent, when I go through sales calls and I get a sales call of someone saying, I I have built this before and I know what I want, there's almost 80% chance that person ends up becoming a BEM customer because they know how painful this is.
This
Um,
is right.
yeah, and there's this
Eh,
sunk cost fallacy where a lot of these teams have built this before, and they're like, well, but we already built it. But it's like, yes, but it's also costing you $500,000 to every year to maintain it. Um,
exactly.
so
And
yeah, that's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When it comes to build versus buy, the biggest challenge what I see and I hear from enterprise leaders is first thing is time, second thing is maintaining, third thing is the cost that kind of
Yeah,
comes into the game. And when we kind of, obviously when they try to scale, the third comes the first when they start spending so much on what they build. And now when they kind of take a step back and start going out and seeing that which vendors have already built, and if they come through something similar, they feel that, oh, there are external folks who have done way better to as compared to what we've built internally. And then we have to manage everything too. We need resources,
yeah.
we need people for this. So I think at many levels this kind of validates so many different things that I talk to enterprise leaders as well, and they always say that build versus buy is good, but then like a good debate, and build is super good, but then when we do it and when we want to scale it, when we do it and we have 15 people, we are using it, it's fine. Now
Yeah.
when we go to 100 people in the on the team, it just turns out to be there are a lot of things that needs to be taken care, and it can't be done in small engineering teams can't do it, even because we have to focus on the real business problems as well. So who's going to do
Oh, for
that?
sure.
Yeah.
And you know what's really funny is I think one of the first intuitions we get from prospects when we talk to them and who end up becoming customers is they say, well, but like you can drag and drop a PDF today into ChatGPT and get something out of it. And I'm like, for sure. And if all you need is that, and you're getting 200 of these a day, even a day, I would say it's a stretch, but you can do it. You can probably build something like BEM in 48 hours. You can vibe code it. Probably you can just use Cloud Code to like build it. But if you're receiving a few thousand, and now you have to think about, well, something no one talks about is OpenAI fails on like 1 to 5% of requests. And if you ask
Hmm.
support for like help, they'll be like, just retry it. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, now I need layers of retry. Um,
Retry, right?
and now I need to fine tune or patch the prompt and break what used to work. And now I need HIPAA compliance. And now I need infrastructure in multiple regions. Like things
Oh
do
my
get
god.
progressively complex.
Yeah.
And so when we get someone that comes to us and says, well, this is not that big of a deal, this is commoditized, for sure. Like if all you need is that, we actually encourage people to build it themselves. We've actually posted guides and benchmarks on every new model that comes out to the market. We're not adding value there. Where we add value is if you receive a few thousands of these and you need it super accurate and you don't want to have to mess with the prompt every single time, and you want something that is just really easy to use and you don't have to build it,
Mhm.
maintain it, all of that, that's where we come in. And so I actually encourage people coming in to, I basically tell them, try to build this yourself. What we can't do is, I don't want to have to convince people that like, hey, this is hard. And for sure, for a lot of smaller teams, it's probably better to just build this yourself and then eventually graduate into like a more enterprise solution.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. And I totally agree when it comes to, the larger enterprises, when you're talking about scale, it is hard to, manage, something like this internally. And
Yeah.
if you can do that, hats off. But again, I would say at least 70 to 80% percent of the companies, the enterprises would never want to build it internally, because then there's something else that they have to take care of, and if that fails, then it's a big mess. So that's why
Yeah.
we see most of the enterprises kind of go and rely on a third party for something like this, because they know that the team will be there to assist. Because what happens is basically they kind of consider you guys, like BEM for example, as teammates who would be looking after all
Oh yeah.
the obviously the documentation, that they all the unstructured data converting into structured data. So I feel that's a game changer. I'm wanting to shift gears a little bit,
Yeah.
because this is a good segue to get into where the industry is also headed, right? When foundation models improve, do you reprocess historical data? How do you decide that safely? I'm kind of wanting to know a little bit about that as well, Antonio.
We don't. We by default we don't. So for context, every time a new model comes out to the market, and there's sure, I mean, if you follow this probably more than I do, but like just on OCR, There's been 4 or 5 models in the last 2 weeks that are incredible, all of them. GLM OCR is absolutely spectacular. We test every single one of them and we benchmark them against golden data sets. And so
Nice.
we just ignore the industry benchmarks. Well, because like if I get like OmniBench, like data set, and I train towards it, of course I'm always going to get really, really high scores.
Scores.
Yeah.
Right.
So we test it against just like private data because our customers
Nice.
have data that has never seen the light of day. If one of these models performs better than what we already have, we replace it, right? So our customers pay us. One of the reasons why they pay us and they use BEM is so that their teams don't have to do the work of, oops, a new model came out. Now I have to check if it actually performs better. I have to rerun everything. So by default, we don't run again through we don't reprocess historical data
Hmm.
because that data is time based, right? So for instance, an invoice that has been processed through BEM has already been paid for. It's done. What we do is we do retroactively test it against data that was really good, like our golden data sets. And then if we see a improvement, then we graduate that model.
Yep.
And our customers don't have to worry about that. And so that's kind of how
Yep.
we think about the problem. In very rare cases where a customer has the situation where like we have a couple of customers that use us for digital twinning, so they have like a whole Dropbox or like what is it called, SharePoint of millions of
SharePoint. Right.
documents, and they just want a like digital duplicate of everything. We will just let them know and we'll say, hey, like you could get slightly better results if you upgrade it, but for the most part we don't do it by default because it's transactional data that keeps happening every day.
Yeah, no, no, it totally makes sense. And yeah, why until required. I think it also happens where you reach a stage and then you would want to graduate that model. So it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm kind of also curious because I heard this from the industry a lot is that they're pushing towards removing humans from the loop entirely. It looks like you seem to believe something different. So I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think?
So I would say every company that has very publicly laid off their employees, saying that AI replaced them has failed. It's just that the headline of company X laid off their team because of AI is very public, and it gets published on Forbes, Fortune, like all of these like great media. But when they actually realize the mess they made and they have to rehire all those people, they
Yeah,
keep it super, super quiet and they don't tell anyone,
so
right?
true. So
And
true.
so I also think it's a very defensive position, right? Like if your whole goal as a business is to cut costs and not grow, what you're already telling me is you want to pump up your stock price 5 to 10% because the market now is going to think that you're a little bit more efficient. Like I want to work with companies that are on the offense, which means I want to grow. I have a team. I want to enable them with great tools. And so
So
all of
true.
our customers, none of our customers, it's funny, like none of our current customers have thought of BEM as a means to replace their team. What they all come to us saying, hey, we're
Oh,
growing
nice.
really, really fast. We want to give our team of operators or our users a like much better tooling and grow faster. And I think it's economy, right? Like why think of it as a zero sum game where the goal is to remove humans when you can actually just give them better tooling. And so that's the way we think about it. I think that
Nice.
yeah, and it's funny, right, Ravi? Like we went, like if you've seen the type of software we've been using for the last 20, 30, 40 years. We went 5 years ago from having terrible, absolutely terrible software that no one likes, right? I can't remember a salesperson to saying, "Oh, I love X CRM." Right? Everyone hates software, especially enterprise software. We went from that to, "Oh my god, let's replace humans with a like
Oh my God. So true.
with a little robot." Why not? There's like at least 15 steps between that where we should just give humans the best tools we can so that they do work that really elevates the company and accelerates revenue. That's kind of how we think about it.
100% I agree. In terms of, obviously making, like, replacing humans, is just, I feel like sometimes most of the time it backfires to a lot of companies who have already done that. And like you
Clearly.
said, they would rehire. And I've had like friends who were laid off from maybe tech giants. I won't name anyone, but then, and they were recalled again,
Yeah.
for the same position, like maybe after three
Yeah.
months like, they've spent 3 months on garden leave and they're back recalled
Yeah.
again for the same role,
Every single
because
time. Yeah.
so this doesn't work. The best part, what I feel, and this happens a lot in the enterprises, like you said, with the customers as well, that you'll have, they know they are growing fast. They wouldn't want to not bet on people, because people have made them reach here, and then these humans will actually take them to the next level. The only thing that needs to be added is like, okay, here's a tool which will give you a
Yeah.
little more productiveness in terms of what you're doing. Maybe you are now 3x more productive in your work, and then we'll grow more faster. So I think companies also kind of need to think it that way. So that's a very good point, Antonio. I'm kind of also curious to learn from you. When an AI system makes a wrong decision from, the unstructured data, who is
Yeah.
accountable? Whom should we be saying that? Okay, because when it comes to ownership of such things,
Oh yeah.
it becomes a challenge. So yeah, what are your
You know
thoughts?
what's so you know what's really I completely I think this is a really interesting topic. Very few people talk about, and it's that if I use a tool that uses AI under the hood, and I start
Mm-hmm.
running through credits, there's a lot of these that I have like the little tokens on the corner, and you can see the tokens going down.
No,
They
right.
kind of put the accountability on either the models or the user, but never themselves, right? It's like, oops, the result is not what you expected. Keep running through credits, and they're charging you for a service they should be providing. And I resent
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that the way that we operate is we obviously are not accountable for your business know-how and how you run your IP, your core mode. Like, we don't touch that, but we are accountable for what we do, which is make sure that what you get from us is an accurate representation of what you sent us. That's it, right? And it's actually that simple to say, hey, our expectation is that at least every customer um, should be running at like 95+% accuracy, and we have internal alarms. Whenever someone is going down below that, we'll get like a flag, and we'll proactively contact the customer and say, hey, it seems like either you misconfigured something or we probably messed up, let's address it. What I don't like is
Mm-hmm.
platforms where you're like, hey, new AI feature, we're going to charge you credits because they're paying for tokens, and then it doesn't work, and then they're like, well, run it again and change the prompt and see if it works. And I feel like, I don't want to name names. I don't think it's their fault necessarily because of the way that the industry is structured, but
Industry,
a
right.
lot of CRMs do this, right? Where enrichment, or if you want to run any type of AI automation on tables, for example, you have your prompt, and we use, for example, a few enrichment tools for CRM that say, hey, can I know if this person, who is the best person to contact at these companies? You run it through AI, it charges you $50 worth of tokens, and then the outputs don't make any sense, and they're just like,
So
cool,
true.
add more tokens, keep trying, and
Oh my God.
I don't think that's how we want to operate. It's also that the way we bill our users is by function call. And it's funny because a lot of document extraction systems, they'll charge you per page or
Right.
per number of tokens. We don't care. You can send us a one-page document or a 200-page contract. We charge you exactly the same because we want to bill by business outcomes. And so the moment we do that, we have to own it. So we hold ourselves very much accountable to quality. And we've actually decided proactively not to release certain features because we didn't think we could deliver the quality of service that our users like expect.
That's
I
very
rather
honest.
Yeah, I'd rather do that than have a leaky bucket of people churning through the platform and
Right.
saying, "Hey, I don't like this." And so, I think AI platforms need to hold themselves more accountable to things not working, instead of just basically the bad guy is the model, right? It's like, well, models are what they are, you know? It's like, well, no, but I'm paying for a service. Like, I should get something out of
Service,
it.
right?
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. I love how you all operate, and how you all have even gone out and kept it more feature related system,
Yeah.
as compared to going out and having those token systems, which is where if it doesn't work, try more tokens, pay more, and maybe you might get a result. And maybe, and
Yeah.
most of the times, what I also feel is like it also frustrates the user after a while. That is not a long term thing where, okay, you're charging for tokens, you can go out maybe 10 times, that I might actually, after the 10th time, I will actually switch. I would want to
Yes.
use something else. I think having that wrong decision, or obviously showing up something which is incorrect, if teams are making sure that they take, and it's not just the token which is kind of going down and down. I feel that that is also the future. So BEM is kind of already working around that. So kudos to you guys. Fantastic work around that. I'm
Thank
kind of
you.
also, I know we're kind of, obviously coming towards the end, but I'm wanting to learn, and I can talk to you for another half an hour as well. Easily, Antonio. I have so many, like what I feel is like these sort of discussions always bring up so much of the right content that these enterprise leaders are always looking, and these are the usual problems that they face daily, and they
Yeah.
always look out for obviously ways and means how, not only just about them but then in general as well, what should they be taking care of. Build versus buy is always a huge topic. So
Yeah.
when we talk about, I'm going to ask you about the future and how do you see about unstructured data, but right now I wanted to ask you about the evolution. So we saw the evolution from hand coded ETL to declarative pipelines.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to know what's the equivalent shift for unstructured data. What do you think?
I think the shift is super clear. I mean, at least in our minds, is a lot of the legacy platforms and even newer players, they think about data as data level operations, right? So um, you send a PDF and you have one API to extract the table at the top, and another one to extract the chart, and another one to segment this and segment that. They think about the document as bounding boxes. I think the shift is towards semantics. The truth is, all of our customers, they came to us because they were using these platforms and they realized I can't do that because every document looks completely different, and I don't know
True.
if the next document is going to have a chart or not, or is it going to have a photo. And so you ultimately, that type of document level operation, what we internally call it picks and shovels, which is basically just
Mhm.
the minion work of like going through a document and like determining what parts to extract. We don't think it
Right.
should be exposed to users. I think that's outdated. um, we have one API call. It doesn't matter what document. We should be doing the work internally in our models, in our infrastructure should be doing the work of saying, cool, a photo, I'll send it to this model that is really good at photos. Cool, a chart, here it is. Like we do that automatically. And so I think that's the shift. A lot of really good models today are completely multimodal. We certainly are. Like we released semantic extraction, I think
Right.
2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's been an absolute hit because people were like, "Oh, this isn't even about extracting a transcript of a video anymore. It's understanding who is this person? Are they advertising me something? What are the key highlights of the video?" And so I think
Mhm.
that's the shift we're seeing. That's the first shift is, okay, we're not going to do document level operations anymore. That is ridiculous. It should be, and that makes also sense because then you basically ignore what are the number of pages, what is like, you don't care about the number of pages. For starters, we have people sending us video. How could we charge per
Mhm.
page if you send us a video? Like, it wouldn't make any sense. That's the first shift. The second shift is business ROI. What do you
Right.
do? What do you do with that document? Is that document an insurance claim that needs to be decided upon and supervised by someone? Is it an invoice that needs to be paid? And so we ourselves as a platform, are slowly shifting into a world where what we want people to do in BEM is automating an entire business process. Um,
Right.
sure, it's all modular. You can still use just the Lego block we have to extract semantics out of document. But what we hear universally from customers is like, well, I realize that now that I have the semantics, I need to do something with that document, and that's what we're focused on.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the shift that you were mentioning that happened already
Yes.
with ETLs. I think
ETLs.
this is the shift now happening with unstructured data.
Unstructured data. I love it. One last question that I have, Antonio, for you
Yeah,
is in the next 3 to 6 months, how do you
yeah,
kind of, what is BEM focusing on? What new features, if you already have planned it, if you want to give a sneak peek to our audience,
of
what
course.
can we expect if someone who's an enterprise leader, a mid-sized company who wants to use, maybe tomorrow I decide to use BEM, how should I use it? So
Mm,
just in one question, I've tried to put 3, 4 questions very smartly.
No, no,
So kind
no,
of
no. Of course,
curious
that's a
to
great
learn your
question.
thoughts. Yep.
Today in BEM, if you sign up and use it, or if you become our customer, you can extract any kind of document, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint or a PDF or a video or an audio. It could be a voice note that someone sent on WhatsApp, and turn it into something that looks like a structure. It's a structure. It's semantic, and it's the equivalent of a
Mm,
human being sitting down and typing it into a. That's kind of the way I describe it. Right, you're automating that.
right.
Then we release the ability to enrich data and search over your source of truth. Our customers all have databases, they have incredibly valuable information. So we ground the transformation in searching it. That is the equivalent of automating a dropdown, right? You always have that one ERP or system where you're like, oh, right, this like insurance plan. And you have to search the name and you have to like fudge with it a little bit until you click the right one. That's the automation we enable. The next step for us as a company, which we're starting to alpha test with some of our users, is there's two very different avenues of work that we're doing right now
Mm-hmm.
in BEM. One of them is infrastructure. Our users are sending us millions of these documents on a monthly basis, and they're everywhere in the planet. We now have customers in Europe. We have customers in Southeast Asia. So they need a global infrastructure that works really well, a very good, secure backbone. So we're building essentially an infrastructure team that only works on security, on compliance. You can imagine this for healthcare, for like complex supply chains, for defense and government. So all of that. The other avenue of work is the one I kind of teased already before, which is people are doing something with this data, and
Right.
we want to be part of that. And so that's our next. We've squeezed all we can from the current models. Every new model that comes out, whoever it is, because we use proprietary and open source, it just makes the data extraction better and better and better and better. Our
True.
next frontier is allowing you to make decisions on the data and supervising work, all in BEM. And so that's we have a ton of feature announcements lined up. The team has
Nice.
been really, really hard at work, but that's really our goal is to, hey, document extraction, but for what? What do you want to do with this data? And we want to help you automate as much as we can so that your team has an incredible platform to just like build upon, essentially.
I love it. I think this is game changer for sure. In sorry, I just went back. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was just saying, what y'all are building, not only just right now, but in the future as well, looks very promising. And definitely,
Thank you.
I want to try them more. I want to, obviously
Yeah.
try and see those, the things that you kind of spoke about, which is about even when the results kind of come, how confident BEM is about it.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I feel we miss out. I'm not going to see those token numbers. I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah. There's no, yeah.
It
We
just
don't.
makes,
We just don't
yeah.
care about that. Yeah. Exactly.
So those are like the small things, but it kind of makes a lot of difference when we're kind of talking about scale. And when we're talking about enterprise scale, it's a different ballgame altogether. I know we're almost time, but then I had a blast chatting with you, Antonio. You shared some
Likewise.
amazing insights. For those who've been watching and would want to connect with you, would want to connect with BEM team, what's the best place for them to get connected, learn more about it, and BEM.ai is where they can go and sign up, I guess.
Exactly. BEM.ai has a bunch of case studies, a bunch of examples on how to use it properly. And if you click, I think it's sign up somewhere in the corner, you can just try it out. So you can sign up for free, try it out today. Send us feedback. Like we only become a great company, a great platform if we get completely unadulterated feedback. I am reachable at Antonio at BEM.ai.
Nice.
And I respond to every single message. And so if people have thoughts, ideas, feedback, want to brainstorm on something, we're always down to it. And that's how we do it. And please try it out and send us feedback. If it doesn't work for you, we want to make sure it does. And so, yeah, no, I
Yep.
invite people to try it out.
Fantastic. This is lovely. Antonio, this was fantastic. Deep dive into one of the hardest AI problem today, making unstructured data reliable enough for real business decisions. And for those, if you're building products that depend on messy real world inputs, and if you want to use BEM, it will actually help you with accuracy. You can trust in production. You can check out BEM at BEM.ai, sign up for free or request, custom demo, workflow, all of those cool stuff. Go and check out, meet Antonio. He's a cool person. He replies to all the messages. Check it out and follow him on LinkedIn as well. But Antonio, thank you for joining us today. We'll keep the
Thank you
conversation
so
going.
much.
Can't wait to catch up with you in person the next time, maybe after a few months when you all have like a product release. I would want a show and tell. We'll get into the product. We'll learn more
Yes.
about, maybe we'll give the audience more insight into, what we've spoken about. So that will also help the enterprise leaders see the inside picture as well about the speed, the scalability, and the accuracy as well. So it will be fun. Until then, we'll keep chatting. But thanks again for visiting the Ravit Show, and thanks to our audience who
Thank you.
watch the show. We'll keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravit. It's awesome.
Thank you, Antonio.